upcoming book, Bold Enough. How in the world are you? I've had the opportunity to hang out in Houston over the 4th of July weekend. To all of my followers that sent me messages to tell me where to hang out, I greatly appreciate it. It's always great to meet new people and to experience new things. A lot of fond memories in the city of Houston. I used to live there, and so it's good to be back on my stopping grounds. So I hope that you had a great holiday as well, and you're doing okay or better than okay on this bold enough journey. So today I want to shout out and say, hey, how are you doing? This is a wellness check, and I'm going to share with you how I'm doing as well. So we'll compare notes. So get out your pencil and paper and let's be ready to evaluate ourselves on how we're doing in this bold enough journey. So we have spent the last year. Yes, it's been a year that the Bold Enough podcast has been in existence, and we've had some really great conversations coming from my upcoming book, Bold Enough, and plus that. So, we talked about bold enough to heal, bold enough to forgive, bold enough to reconcile, bold enough to apologize, bold enough to love yourself first, bold enough to stand for something, bold enough to express yourself, bold enough to not look back, but move forward, bold enough to tell the truth and want to know the truth. Ouch. I know that's a tough one. And then we also talked about just bold enough to understand where your boldness can come from, that power source, which I've explained to you what mine is. Mine is the power of the Holy Spirit leading, guiding, and directing me to give me that boost of confidence that God's got my back. So you may have other beliefs and another power source, but we're still checking in. Let's compare notes. So I am going to start with healing, because remember, when I shared with you, when you take the Bold Enough challenge, the first thing that you have to do is heal from the past, get rid of all of the baggage. And I even shared that I probably had 25 pounds or more of baggage that I had to get rid of. And I did. And I learned the proper way to grieve and to heal and to really just move on. And that came from forgiveness and some reconciliation I had to do, not only with others, but also with myself. So, how am I doing now that I've learned the process about healing? Where am I today in my bold enough journey? So, I want you to jot down healing, forgiveness, reconciliation. So you can evaluate yourself either with a check mark, a minus, or on a scale of 1 to 10, however you want to self evaluate yourself, go for it. The main thing is that we're getting better and better and more comfortable in our bold enough journey. So I'm doing the wellness check because it dawned on me a couple of days ago, and even today, how our mind just gets carried away, and it is a battlefield in our own minds. I can't do this, or I'm not good enough to do this, or I'm not courageous to do this. I'm not ever going to be successful. I'm not going to find the love of my life. And the list goes on and on what our mind tries to tell us. So they're all lies. The negativity are lies. And remember, I said we have to squelch negativity, thoughts that come into our mind right away, and replace them with positivity. So, for the healing process and learning how to heal, as curveballs come into my life on a regular basis, and I bet they're coming into your life too, it makes us feel some kind of way. And when they're really, really tough ones, can we move on? Can we like identify the curveball? And to me, curveballs can be challenges or trials, but we have to find the treasure within the trial. So, my question is, are you able to heal and move on? Have you started yet? Are you still carrying baggage because you're not willing to forgive and reconcile when you can, when it's possible? The biggest thing is you can always reconcile with yourself if the other person is not willing to reconcile, and sometimes the person's no longer living. So give yourself a check mark, or if you're rating on the scale of 1 to 10, where are you? I'm always vulnerable. I'm going to tell you the truth. I will give myself a check mark. I'm going to do the check mark system. And I'm doing really well. I'm so grateful I learned how to grieve and to heal so that I can move on. And if it requires forgiveness and if it requires reconciliation, I'm all open to do that because I want to keep my life of joy, peace, and freedom to live out the purpose that I was created to do. So, how am I doing on loving myself first? I really felt that I was really doing a good job. But lately, I have found myself in situations that were pretty challenging. And I was ready to just buckle in and people please. And then, I decided that because people pleasing in those situations was not showing the love, the value, and the worth that I have. So, no, thank you. I'm not people pleasing to the extent where someone's running over me or trying to put me in a box or do something that I don't want to do that's going to take away my peace, my joy, my freedom. Not doing that. So I can't give myself a full check mark. I'm going to have to continue to be aware, just like I was, but it took me a little bit to rebound. But the good news is, I noticed that I was falling into the detrimental habit of people pleasing, an unhealthy people pleasing. And so I was able to jump back on track, but I wanted to be a little bit more almost immediate. I know that sometimes we have to really ponder and pause, but and maybe I'm being a little hard on myself, but nevertheless, I'm not giving myself a check mark yet. And then when we go on to, are you bold enough to tell the truth? Are you bold enough to stand the truth? Are you bold enough to accept the truth? I'm going to give myself a check mark. What about you? Are you being honest with yourself? Are you being honest with others? Do you want to hear the truth? Are you bold enough to ask? Are you bold enough to ask those questions and not worry about the answer? You just want the truth. I'm doing really good there. I'm going to give myself a check mark. Are you bold enough to apologize? I'm there. I'm apologizing the appropriate way, not using if or but, saying exactly what I'm apologizing for, and I'm taking responsibility for my actions. How are you doing? Are you bold enough to apologize the right way and take responsibility? How are you doing? You doing okay? All right. So, this is what a wellness check is all about. It's taking time out to reflect. Week after week, I'm sharing something new, but I don't necessarily know how you're doing. So put it in the chat, where you're falling a little bit short. Are you vulnerable enough to be bold enough to share what you're struggling with? I am. I am no longer worried about what other people think. If I'm struggling, I'm going to not lie to myself. I'm going to be honest. And in that circle where I could be vulnerable, I have no problems with expressing it. But hey, I've got all of you out there that I'm expressing and being vulnerable to. And that's because it's good. This is my purpose, to share that we can be vulnerable and we can release ourselves to be able to move on. So, bold enough to heal, bold enough to love. Again, ah, I get a check mark. I am bold enough to love again. So, all of the baggage is gone, and I'm embracing what love has to offer. And I'll keep you posted on that if I continue to tread in the right direction and not go backwards. So, bold enough to keep moving forward. I will have to tell you, I was tempted a little bit here and there over the past 30 days. And I started looking back and I felt myself, no, 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 no. There's nothing for me back there. And then I bounced back. So I can't give myself a full check mark because I let my mind play around with some things that I should have released right away, and I didn't. So that just tells me we're evolving. But the good news is I recognized it. So, how are you doing with moving forward and not looking back? Rate yourself. Rate yourself. If you don't want to share and put it in the chat or DM me later and let me know how you're doing, that's okay. But at least be honest with yourself. So today was all about checking in. We talked about healing, forgiveness, love, bold enough to ask, not look back, bold enough to stand for something. Are you standing for what you believe in? Or are you being swayed by the crowd? I get a check mark. I'm standing for what I believe in. What about you? So that's all I wanted to do today was check in on your bold enough journey. If you have not decided to be bold enough to be authentically you, now is your time. You are missing out on so much joy. The world is not responsible for my joy. I am responsible for my joy. What is meant to be for you is for you. Your purpose that you were created for is for you. No one can take it away but you. So start the bold enough journey. Start it so that you too can have this peace, joy, and freedom and begin to use your purpose. I'm living out my purpose and I am so happy. So my wellness check, okay. So for what we discussed today, I probably got a 7 or 8 out of 10. But guess what? I could be a 7 or 8 out of 10 at this very, very moment, but then something else could creep in. And I'm not going to be negative and say it is, but I have to be aware and not let my mind play these games. So remember, don't dwell on negativity. You are somebody. You have value. You have worth. And there's a purpose for you to serve the world. So have a great week, everyone. I adore each of you, and I'm excited about your bold enough journey. So check in with me. Put it in the chat, DM me, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I'm here for you. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.